Welcome to the Healthcare Security Cast, the podcast dedicated to healthcare security, safety, and emergency management. If you are involved with a healthcare security program or desire to be, this podcast is for you. Join the conversation as we discuss the issues that matter to healthcare security professionals while leveraging the expertise of healthcare security thought leaders and experts in personal development. And now, here's your host, Brian Hamilton.
Before we jump into the show, I just want to thank my sponsors and collaborators. 3D Network Technology, reliability is our core value. Visit www.3dnetworktechnology.com. And Genetech, delivering security strategies for healthcare. Visit Genetech, that's GENETEC.com for more information. We'd also like to thank the Change Execution Group and 360 Life Transformations. Visit www.360lifetransformations.com. We'd also like to thank Canadian Security Magazine and Omnigo Software. And now, let's get into today's show. Today on the Healthcare Security Cast, we are joined by Terrell Naylor. Terrell, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Now, I'm going to start off by asking the question that everybody wants to know the answer to. Who is Terrell Naylor?
I'm a 20-year Army veteran, entrepreneur, father, husband, and a canine handler.
Awesome stuff. So I guess at the conclusion of your 20-year career in the Army, you decided to found this business. So what was kind of I'm skipping steps. I'm sure there was stuff in between, but what led to you starting your own business? And if you could talk to us a bit about the business as well.
Yeah, no problem. So what led me to starting, me and my partners to starting Ronin, was the last job I had. It was a security job, and I didn't like the way my boss treated me. I didn't like the way he treated other people. He acted like we owed him something. I got with a great group of guys, and we decided that it was time to go ahead and start our own thing. So what got me into Canine was I went through Custom Canine Unlimited for Canine Handler School. I got partnered with Luna, a 4-year-old Belgian Malinois. She specializes in explosive detection, patrol, and tracking. We made it through the 6-week course without any serious injuries to her or myself. But it was a challenging course, but I definitely learned a lot. What brought me to Canine was seeing how the dogs responded downrange, Afghanistan, Iraq, and the miraculous things they would do. You could have an IED buried, 5-10 feet underground, and they would locate it, and when it came to missions and actions on, seeing the way those dogs were fearless, they would run into a room and go after the bad guy just so they could get petted or, a ball tossed to them afterwards. It was a great sight to see the way the dogs would help with guys after missions. If you lost somebody, or somebody was severely wounded, the dogs would come around. It was like they were like the mama and daddy dogs coming around and checking on everybody, make sure everybody's good. I grew up around dogs, so it felt like the right thing to do was to continue on with the dog service.
That's awesome stuff. So your company, do you guys focus primarily on canines, or do you do other parts of security as well?
We do other parts of security. Our main bread and butter is canine. We select our guys based off their veteran status. Now, we're not opposed to hiring civilians, but for the most part, veterans have been at the forefront of combat, so they react differently if in an active shooter situation, or they're a little bit more reserved when it comes to dealing with some people, and trying to de-escalate the situation because they know what it's like to go from 0 to 100. But canine is our primary bread and butter. We do some unarmed and armed security as well, but canine's where we're at right now.
And the one thing that you mentioned too, it's great that there is a veteran focus. Obviously, you said you're not opposed to bringing in people without that background. But one thing that we know to be true is a lot of times when folks are transitioning from that life, there's often times where it's difficult to find a position that pays well, that's really conducive to that skill set that they bring.
Yeah, and that's one of the primary one. Well, not our primary, but it's one of our missions is to employ vets and keep them from becoming a statistic. You know, last count it was like 22 vets a day are committing suicide. So if we can give them a new skill set, pay them a livable wage, and employ them, then for us we're knocking down the statistics. Granted, when it comes to thoughts of suicide, it does. There's other things that factor into that, but if we can pay somebody a livable wage and keep them employed, and keep them from becoming that statistic, then that's what we're going to do.
Absolutely. Now, from a security perspective, one thing I'm curious to know is how you, I guess, how you respond to any pushback from bill rates. Because obviously, with that increased wage, it's going to reflect on the bill rate. And I'm sure there must be pushback when people see your rates compared to others. What are some of the ways that you counter that pushback to really explain and articulate why the bill rates are what they are?
Well, one of the things that we do with handlers and with our regular armed and unarmed guards is we train, like actually getting them in the motions of doing it. That's how guys train. We have high standards when it comes to our firearms proficiency, and we train our dogs at a minimum of 4 hours a week, and that's patrol work, that's the explosive detection, narcotics, the tracking, all of the above. We train with one of the local police departments biweekly, and so that's what you're going to get when you come to us. You're going to get somebody that's highly trained, and it's not just the lethal side. We do non-lethal too, taser training, pepper ball training, the mace, all that stuff. We train, and so you're getting a highly trained professional to step into that role and do what is expected. We get brought in to protect life, limb, or eyesight for employees, property, so on and so forth. So you're getting a highly trained person that's going to show up to work and be eager to be at work. We do what we can to make sure our clients are taken care of and our guys are taken care of at the same time.
Excellent stuff. And that's the one area. Well, there's a couple of areas, but that's one of the key areas where we see a lot of struggles is, like you said, in relation to the training. So it's not only that there's a minimum training requirement where your guys are being sent out with a minimum training requirement. From the sounds of it, it seems like there's constantly training happening, and especially with the dogs, 4 hours every week minimum.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, with our firearms proficiency, we go to the range once a month and we qualify every quarter. We're like for where I'm at in Tennessee, the state level standard is, you go to the range every 2 years, you know what I mean? And you just show that you're proficient in shooting on a little target. We put our guys through hostage scenarios. We put our guys through really strenuous, time sensitive scenarios when it comes to the firearms proficiency. When it comes to the dog training, like I said, we do explosive detection. So you're not just getting boxes that the dogs are running through. They're checking vehicles, parking garages, trash cans, everything. When it comes to patrol, we're apprehending guys through windows of vehicles, just like law enforcement does. Because you never know when it comes to that situation. It could be where somebody's breaking into a vehicle, and you don't know what they have. And to be honest, I'd rather send, my partner Luna, I'd rather send her into an unknown situation than for me to send one of my guys in there and then that person be armed and my guy doesn't go home that night. It's unfortunate, but it's better than losing a human being.
Fair enough. Now, the next thing that I'm curious to know about is, just based on the conversations that I'm having, there's a lot more, it seems like, attention on canines in healthcare, and I'm seeing a lot more programs incorporating that. And typically, what I've seen is an in-house model for that. But I understand that you also provide these services for some hospitals. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we were brought into a hospital. I'm not gonna get into which hospital.
For sure.
We were brought into a hospital because they were having some issues, high doctor and nurse turnover rate because they didn't feel safe. High vehicle break-ins and stuff. And so we were brought in to help alleviate that. Plus, a lot of people are gearing towards the active shooter or the bomb threats. There's a few hospitals here that have bomb threats on a regular basis. And let's be honest, a hospital loses millions when it comes to that because, they have to shut everything down and they have to evacuate the building, and then they have to wait on law enforcement to show up and conduct their search, and it could take a couple hours, So we got brought in to help mitigate that stuff. And, so we've put in the work. We've been fortunate since September of last year. The hospital we're at, they've only had one vehicle break in, and that one's still under investigation. So I can't get too far into that, but we've, knock on wood, we've been very fortunate with that. When it came to the large crowds, we've severely reduced it. A lot of people, when we show up with the dogs, especially down here in the Memphis area, Memphis doesn't have the greatest history when it comes to canines. So, we've been working to fix that. Our dogs are super social, but when we show up with our dogs, if they're acting a fool on the patio, then as soon as they see the dog, they're like, "Oh, wait, they got dogs here? Yeah, I don't do dogs," and then they leave, and people go back to minding their own business and relaxing. Like I said, our dogs are super social, so they're not like Cujo where you can't take them anywhere because they're trying to eat everybody. For us, that doesn't help anything. So we do a lot of social work with the dogs. Walking around, around groups of people to let them know not everybody is a bad guy. You know, and that's the good thing about Custom Canine is they know what we're looking for. So when we send guys down there, that's what we get is social dogs that can do the job. They can, at the drop of a dime, they get that command, and they're willing to tear somebody up, to keep them from hurting anybody else.
Awesome. Now, for somebody who is trying to, I guess, incorporate an in-house program and they're having, for whatever reason, say their administration doesn't want to go that route, what are some of the advantages that you could share about outsourcing that part of the program?
Whew, that's a good question. So with us, like our dogs stay at home with us. My partner, she roams around the house. Right now she's put up because she's a little anxious today. She wants to get out and do something. But my kids, they can play with her. She'll lay on the floor, with us when we're watching movies and stuff. So the trying to get it started, I would tell them, like, look, you need to really research what you're trying to do. Have a really good understanding, because some people think that it's good to have people petting on your dog all the time, and there's times where it's okay and there's times where it's not. If we're on a patrol, or we're actively dealing with an issue, then those obviously are not good times. You got to have a solid base. You got to have guys with knowledge, and like I said, shout out to Custom Canine Unlimited. They push the envelope. You're catching stuff through a fire hose, and you're held to a higher standard. I've dealt with guys from some other schools, and they don't cut the mustard. So you really got to be really selective on where you get your guys from. The benefit of bringing others in is my guys are responsible for their dogs. We help them out with their dogs. It's not cheap. It's really not. Feeding, bathing, grooming when they get sick. On the hospital side, that's a lot of money, that goes into that, where on the private side, we charge the higher rates because, we have to be able to take care of those dogs, and we hold a lot of insurance just in case something does happen. Yeah, I would say really do the research. If people are interested, they can always reach out to us. I have no problems talking to people. As you know, we've talked a few times.
For sure. Now, I guess I kind of want to shift gears and talk about the entrepreneurial side of things and actually starting a security company, because I know there's some people who I'm in communication with who are regular listeners who are interested in going that route. What are some of the insights you can share from being an entrepreneur in the security world?
Man, so it was definitely a learning curve for me. It's different than being in the military. What I did personally is one of my partners is a business guy. He's got an MBA from Vandy. He handles the business side. And I've over the last 18 months, I've learned a lot from him. Am I at his caliber? No, not by any means. But what I'm good at is the operations side and the training side. So that's what I do. It's like I said, it's definitely different. It's it's enjoyable. There's good times and bad. There's times where you're not, you as an owner are not collecting a paycheck. You know what I mean? But your guys are still collecting a paycheck. Your guys are getting trained. And that's the big thing with getting into security. Make sure your guys are trained. Just because they have that license doesn't mean anything. Keep the training going, because you would feel like crap at the end of the day if your guy did not come home from his shift. But if you train that person, guy or girl, if you train that person, they stand a greater chance of being able to come home at the end of the day, and that's all that matters.
Absolutely. Now, you talk about the good times and the tough times. Sometimes, where you're not getting a paycheck as an owner. Is there any one thing that you're comfortable sharing that you can kind of reflect on as, maybe I don't want to say low point, but maybe something that didn't go as planned, that, that you can really look back and see the benefit from going through that experience now as a business owner?
Yeah, I mean, there's some things that we've gone through. Like there's more than just there's three of us. So when it comes to decision making, I could say yes, but my other two partners could say no. And to be honest, like they've kept me on the straight and narrow, because there's stuff that contracts that I've wanted to get on, and it's like, bro, have you really sat down and analyzed like how much the startup's going to be, or how find all the right people for this? Because we're like I said before, we're selective, so finding the right people for those contracts, it's not easy. You think you got somebody because they look good on paper, and then you find out that they're a dud. It happens. So yeah, there's that, and then shoot, there's things that they may want to do that I'm like, I don't know, you know. So finding that middle ground, you know what I mean, is good. It's different too when like you start a new contract. You gotta be able to pay the payroll for the first like 60 days. And if you don't have the capita to do it, then you might be in a bad kind of way, because the last thing you want to do is short the guys that are working. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's definitely different. And then it's also weird too, because like you want to find contracts, and when you find a contract, then you got to find the people. But the same thing, it's like the reverse too, because the people want you to start right away, but you got to find the people, and you can't hire people and not have contracts, because then you got guys just sitting around, stagnant, and then they're like, this isn't what I signed up for, to sit around the house for 2 or 3 months or 4 months. So it's definitely tough, when it comes to that. And then with us being such a niche company, it's definitely harder to find the right contract, because you got guys out here like that only want to pay $15 an hour. As an owner, it's is it really worth it? You know what I mean? Because it's then you're back to the big box thing, where you're paying like you know $8 an hour just so the company can cover insurance, payroll, everything else, taxes. It's definitely hard. And with where we're at, there are so many companies here, that it makes it real. You got to be competitive. You got to have your marketing right. We started out trying to market on Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. And marketing on there it's great to get a bunch of likes. Everybody likes these millennials and stuff, but to like really get it to where people are going to call you and say, hey, I'm looking for that top-notch security to protect my people because we've had X, Y, and Z happen. It's tough, and not everybody has social media, outside of like LinkedIn. They don't have the Facebook or the Instagram, because all the drama that comes with those.
No, absolutely. No, I can definitely appreciate that. LinkedIn is, I think, really the place to be if you're a business and you're wanting to get exposure out there. It's hard to build up at first, but once you get some traction on there, you can really be successful on there.
Yeah, definitely. And then finding the people, the market that you're trying to get to, the decision makers and so on and so forth. That's LinkedIn is the place to go for that. Facebook, you might run into one of their kids or something, you know what I mean? But that doesn't necessarily mean that kid is gonna bring you up, to the parents, like, and I'll give an example of that. I did a career day at my daughter's middle school, and this was like for the whole school, not just her grade level, the whole school. Out of the whole school, and there's like 700-800 kids that go there, right? Out of the whole school, I had one parent that said, my daughter told me about your career day, and we managed to link up on LinkedIn, and that's where we had the discussion, and I told her what sets us apart from, the regular companies that people deal with, and some people are ready to jump in, some people aren't, they're it's a little bit of a give and take, so but that's a connection, you know what I mean? And so it could pay dividends later on, you know what I mean? And so you've got to take that chance. We've connected with a few people on there, other companies on there, and we've gotten more traction out of LinkedIn than probably anything else, to be honest. And that's radio station, everything, you know. Um, so it's a give or take, and then once you get started fine tuning it to meet your needs, for your company.
Sounds great. Now, I want to kind of circle back to just the operational piece and in terms of healthcare specifically. Could you walk us through a typical day for a canine handler in a healthcare facility?
Yeah, I could do that. It's not all, gunfights and knocking heads. It's a lot of it is just talking to people. What we do right now is if we get a call in the hospital, before we bring the canine out, we'll go and check and see if it's something that warrants the dog. And the reason we do it that way is not every call is needed. A dog is not needed for every call. Sometimes it's just hey, this guy's acting up. He needs somebody to talk to. While we continue get his treatment. You know what I mean? So it's more just you got to be a people person. Just talking to people. Now there's days where people want to test you. And they want to get out of line, and you just got to be able to respond. But a lot of our days are just spent, doing patrols, perimeter patrols. If you see somebody that, there's a huge homeless population down at one of the hospitals we work at, and if you see them out by a bunch of vehicles, you're going to go and check up on them. And the weird part is there's a lot of habitual offenders, so they pop in and, they cause a ruckus and then they leave, when you run them off, so we deal with that. There's days where you have some violent guys that just want to be violent. So we deal with that accordingly. it's not all, like I said, it's not all gunfights and stuff like that. It's definitely a slow day is a great day. If my guys don't have to deploy their dogs, that's a good day too. You know, we all want to work our dogs, but a day where the dog just chills in the vehicle during the shift, and it is what it is. It's a great day. Now, the we still prepare for that worst case scenario of an active shooter or a bomb threat. So it's those days are fast paced. You're busy. It's stressful. You know, so having a solid team with you, whether it's you and law enforcement or you and the other security guards, making sure those other security guards know what they're supposed to be doing. And like with us, we're partnered with another company, so we coach them and train with them to get them, because like I said before, I don't want it to where my guys don't go home at the end of the day, at the end of the shift. So the more people know what they're supposed to be doing in those times, the better.
Awesome stuff. Now, I guess since this is your area of responsibility, I come in today, I want to be a canine handler. What are you looking for on my resume, or just in terms of skill sets, if you're gonna pursue me as a candidate?
Well, I want to see your customer service experience. Talking to people, being around a bunch of people, how you would interact in hostile type situations, and it doesn't have to be like violence, people making threats, how are you going to respond? You can't always go to the fisticuffs or go to your taser or your pepper spray or whatever the case may be. Sometimes all you have to do is just talk to people. So I'm looking at that. I'm looking at where you live, because that's a big thing. If you live in a place, like if you live in an apartment building and they're like, hey, you can't have big dogs here, no dogs over 25 pounds here, that's going to be a problem.
Right.
Plus, the dogs need exercise, so you're going to want to be able to get out and let your dog run around, so you need a yard. So I would recommend, if you came to me, I would say, after looking at your resume, I would ask where you live, and then I would come and check out your place. Because let's be honest, not everybody is clean, and I'm not going to put a $30,000 dog in a pigsty or a hoarder's house. Now, I'm not saying that your house needs to be white glove inspection ready, but there needs to be some order to the house, some cleanliness to the house. Then you got to be willing to go the extra mile, because these dogs they depend on you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 12 months a year. Then we're gonna put you in a bite suit. Everybody goes through it. We're gonna put you in a bite suit. We're gonna see how you react with the dog barking at you, lunging at you, biting you. You know, we're gonna run you through the gamut. Before we make that commitment that you're gonna go and be a handler for us, we got to make sure you understand what is going on, because being in a bite suit, the chances of a dog penetrating through that bite suit is slim. There now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's slim. And so when you on shift make that decision to send your dog, you have to understand that there is violence that comes with it, and it's not violence that, unless you've been in the canine world, it's not violence that you've ever seen before. You know, you're going to see muscles getting ripped and holes, multiple holes. You'll see, some fatty tissue coming out. You'll see blood, and if you're getting nauseous and puking off of that, then this may not be the lifestyle for you. I mean, there's times where there's accidental bites, so when you go through training, they're going to show you how to take a dog off a bite. And whether it's, the verbal out, or if it's where you have to manually go in and remove your dog from the bite. And sometimes it happens, it depends on the situation, but we're going to run you through a gamut. It's not going to be easy, but it's to make sure this is something you truly want to get into. You're probably going to give the dogs baths. You're probably going to brush them. You're going to probably do their nails, because if we're going to send you to school to get all the training, it's not cheap. It's not. So sending you to the school and getting you the training, we want to make sure that we're getting a return on the investment as well, because we're investing in you.
Right. No, it's a big commitment and obviously a big investment on the part of the organization. Now, say, okay, I get through all of that. I'm off to do the training school. How long is that process?
So if we send you for a dual purpose canine, like for the specific contract that we're working right now, it's you got to have explosive detection and patrol. So that by itself is 6 weeks. If we're sending you to just get a single purpose narc dog, you're looking at 4 weeks. If we're sending you for a single purpose explosives dog, you're going to be there 5 weeks. And it's in Georgia, where we send everybody to Custom Canine. And the reason why we go with them is all my handlers have been through them. We know what you're being taught. You can't BS us. So to come out and do something that you're not supposed to do, and then say that's what they taught you, we know you're full of it. And corrective training takes place because of it. And some people think that when they get done with school, the training, the learning is done, but it's not. You always have to strive to learn. There's always new case law that comes out. And for us, when it comes to the security side, we look at the case law for law enforcement, because there's not really a lot of case law out there for security. So case law dictates a lot of things to us, and so we follow law enforcement's case law. So it's, like I said before, it's not an easy life. You have to. I mean, there's times where I don't want to do anything. I'm having a bad day. You know what I mean? And I still got to get my dog out and do something with her.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And there's days where you're scratching your head, like, how in the world did you do this? You know what I mean? Or why would you go to the bathroom in the kennel? You were just outside. You know what I mean? There's days where your dog gets sick, and if people think that human throw up smells bad, you ain't smelled nothing till you smell dog throw up. And but you got to work through it. I mean, there's days where Luna's thrown up, because she got into something that she wasn't supposed to, or she, out on a walk, she ate some goose poop, you know what I mean? And it'll make her sick, but I gotta be able to take care of the situation. I can't shut down because of it.
Yeah, no, I can attest to that. Like, I have a really small dog, and when he vomits, cleaning it up, like the smell of it makes me almost want to vomit. So with a larger dog, I don't even want to contemplate that.
Yeah. And then, these dogs are, everybody wants to give a dog a treat when they see them, and, stuff like that, or table scraps. These dogs are like athletes, like straight up athletes. So they're like on special diets. Like Luna does not get treats. Her treat consists of her dog food, and then her tennis ball when we're out doing detection, or we're out, playing or something like that. That's her treat. Getting the attention and the affection from me. That's her treat. Like milk bones and begging strips and all that. No, because the last thing I need is to give her some not bad food, but not what she needs to get through the day, and she winds up lethargic or obese, because that's one of the huge issues out there is a lot of dogs are overweight, so she's on a strict diet, but she doesn't complain, and you can't humanize the dogs. They're still animals, you know what I mean? The closest we come to dressing up Luna is her vest when she goes to work, and her collar. We don't put reindeer, antlers on her, or a T-shirt or anything. As much as I would like to say, because I'm a Nashville Predators fan, So as much as I would like to put a jersey on her and be like, hey, look, it's the mascot for the Nashville Predators, I'm not doing that, you know. Plus, she reacts different too. Like when I grab her vest and when I grab it, she hears it, you know, and I put it on her, and you know, all right, it's time to go to work. You know, you can literally see the wheels turning, transitioning from I'm at home, relaxing to all right, now it's time to get in the vehicle. Let's go to work, Dad. You know what I mean? Good times.
That's awesome. So now, I guess what is the next stage for Ronin Security? Where are you guys looking to go from where you are now?
Always looking to expand. That's one of the big things is looking to expand, and we want to become the go-to company, but we're not going to depreciate in our training, you know. So we're going to continue training to a high level, you know, and continue to excel and continue to train the growth from the training. But we want to be the go-to company that everybody comes to and says, hey, I need help. What can you do for me? You know, and that's the road ahead for us. You know, if we go beyond, you know, the state of Tennessee, awesome. You know, if we stay in Tennessee, you know, if we stay in the Mid-South, hey, that's fine too. But the overall thing is we want to be able to provide quality guys and pay our guys. And I mean, I can't ask for more. You know, the goal is, you know, to make it sustainable, the company sustainable, to where, you know, when it's time for me to retire and my partners to retire, we could pass it on to the kids. But time will tell, you know, if that happens. You know, the more business we get and the lifelong commitments and partnerships that we get, you know, the better chance. But, you know, we'll take it as it comes.
You know, we're close to our time, so I'll start to wrap up. But as we're closing out, do you have a special message to share with the Healthcare Security Cast community?
The biggest thing I can share, like I said before, is train. You know, you never know when that worst day is going to happen. Train, take care of your people, you know, and that's about it. You know, that's the biggest advice I can give. Train your people, take care of them, and, you know, get through those worst days.
Awesome stuff. Now, for anybody who wants to connect with you, what's the best way for us to do that?
You could go on LinkedIn. We're on there as Ronin Guard, and then we're on, of course, Facebook and Instagram, Ronin Guard and Ronin Canine Services. Our website is www.roningguard.com, and that's RONIN, not RONAN. I have to throw that out there because, you know, there's a million different ways to spell it, but that's the way we spell it. You know, so you can check us out on there. If you got questions, you can reach out to us. We'll answer your questions. If you're looking for canine services, hit us up.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. I appreciate the time. I appreciate the insights, Terrell, and I'm sure everybody got a lot out of this conversation. I definitely enjoyed it myself.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
The Healthcare Security Cast is available on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music and Audible, and many other platforms as well. Check out our Linktree on your computer or mobile device. And this can be found at linktree/Brian Hamilton. That's linktr.ee/Brian, BRINE, Hamilton. Again, that's linktr.ee/Brian Hamilton. Or if it's easier, send me a text at 647-372-2042. That's 647-372-2042. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have or share any links you may be looking for. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, take care and stay safe.